This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show looking at the new documentary, American Doctor. It tells the story of 3 U.S. doctors who volunteered in the besieged hospitals of Gaza, along with local medical staff who risked their lives on a daily basis to care for the sick and wounded. According to Palestinian officials, Israeli attacks have killed about 1,700 healthcare workers in Gaza since October 2023. American Doctor follows the orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Mark Perlmutter, the trauma surgeon, Dr. Feroz Sidwa from California, and the emergency physician from Chicago, Dr. Thaer Ahmed, who is Palestinian-American. This is the film's trailer. It begins with Dr. Ahmed.
I want to take you through what Gaza looks like when a hospital is totally overwhelmed. You're getting waves of patients. What do you prioritize? What do you have to treat them? Got no pain medicine to give the people whose legs have been blown off.
3 surgeons all working on one little girl for, what, 2.5 hours? And she's probably going to lose her right leg, and her left arm.
And she's starting to wake up. Let's get her warm. As a Jewish physician, I knew nothing about Gaza. Like most Americans, I thought everybody out here were nothing but terrorists, because that's what I was told.
I'm not Israeli, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Jewish. I don't really have any connection to it. But as an American, I just don't want my government involved in crimes.
I'm a Palestinian. I'm not a spokesperson. I'm a human being. I'm a U.S. doctor who wants to see babies like my babies not be killed anymore.
What surprised me most was how the carnage was focused on journalists, healthcare workers, and children. This bomb. Where was that?
That bomb hit the building.
There was a 15-year-old kid ready for discharge that was incinerated.
And if I had gone down and been changing that kid's dressing, there would have been 3 bodies, and I would have been one of them.
When they hit a hospital, that's a deep tragedy that people will feel in the community for the foreseeable future. We're just asking that hospitals not be targeted. Why that conversation is derailed in the United States is beyond me.
We do not have to accept that as Americans. The United States could stop sending jet fuel, bombs, all sorts of weapons. This is a political problem. We need a political solution.
We're a good pair. You talk intelligently and I talk emotionally.
It's on us to make sure that their stories are told. I couldn't go to Palestine. I got rejected. And then I come back to the United States and get detained by the Department of Homeland Security.
This is what my tax dollars did. What your tax dollars did. What my neighbor's tax dollars did. They have the right to know the truth.
The trailer of the new film, American Doctor, and this is a clip from the film featuring Dr. Thaer Ahmed.
And I want to just take you through what it looks like when a hospital gets targeted and attacked, because this has become a pattern when it comes to the Israeli military. This has become a behavior that they started in October of 2023 when they struck Al-Ma'madani Ahli Baptist Hospital. And when that happened and that there was no accountability, we saw that this became a series of events that attacked every hospital.
That was Dr. Thaer Ahmed in the new documentary, American Doctor, that's opening around the country, starting here in New York. Dr. Ahmed is joining us now from Chicago, along with Dr. Feroz Sidwa from Stockton, California, also featured in the film, and the film's director, Po Si Tang. We welcome you all. An astounding film, and this is your directorial debut, isn't it, Po?
Yes, it is, and I think I picked an easy subject.
Let's start with Dr. Thaer, who we just heard. I was just looking at the headlines this morning. Thousands of Palestinians in Gaza cannot get out right now. Thousands of cancer patients and chronically ill people. What is the number? Who has defined that, and who is stopping them?
Yeah, the WHO tells us that there are 18,000 people that need urgent evacuation out of Gaza because of what we've seen portrayed in this film, the deliberate attack by the Israeli military on the hospital and healthcare infrastructure, the killing of over 1,700 healthcare workers, and the abduction of senior medical physicians. And, you know, Amy, one of the things that we're trying to push for here is a corridor that used to exist before October 7th. Palestinians in Gaza could go to Jerusalem and get treated by Palestinian doctors in the hospitals there, or the West Bank. And the Israelis have refused to allow that corridor to work. And so instead, we are watching people on this list every day that we get messages about get their names scratched off because they have died. People with treatable cancers, kids who should be surviving, their parents are having to bury them in Gaza.
Po, talk about how you ended up making this film and focusing on these three men, and of course, through them, focusing on what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah, Amy, I was a journalist for a long time before I became a documentary filmmaker and producer, and it really was. It really cut really deep as a former journalist to see my former colleagues at Al Jazeera English being targeted and executed. And then sitting and being situated in New York and hearing the deafening silence, I guess I didn't know what else to do. It was like a lot of deep despair. And then it came for the search on like, okay, what can my contribution be? You know, as somebody who was a journalist, who was a documentary commissioner, who was an executive for a studio. So one thing, as a former studio executive, it wasn't lost on me that Americans like to watch medical dramas. Every year, you're going to see 2 or 3, and I'm a big fan of medical dramas, from The Pit, going back to ER, going back to Grey's Anatomy. I love Scrubs. So there was something about doctors, hospitals, and human mortality. And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe this is the way. Maybe we could make The Pit. The difference is it's real and it's set in Gaza. And this is how we're going to bring Palestine back to the United States.
So, Po, in the opening scene, we see you with Dr. Mark, with Dr. Perlmutter, and you are struggling with the question of whether or not to show the images of Palestinian children killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. And Dr. Mark tells you Israel took away their dignity. Their bodies tell the story of this trauma, of this genocide. You're not doing them a service by not showing them.
You know, on that scene, it was one where...
You were at his home in North Carolina.
I was at his home in North Carolina. It's the second day of filming, and Mark is furious with me. And so that moment, I was really confronted by Mark. So what are you doing here? So what is the point of this film if you don't want to show this? And, you know, all my years as a documentary commissioner and also as a journalist, you know, it's like, as filmmakers, as journalists, we always grapple with how much do we show? We show too much, it's gratuitous. People are going to turn away. They're not going to want to watch. They already don't want to see what's on the social media feeds. They don't want to follow. You show too little. It's a big disrespect because it's not real.
Let's go to Dr. Mark Perlmutter in a clip from American Doctor.
Do a thumbs up.
One at a time. Do a thumbs up. Each finger at a time.
Do a thumbs up.
I think augmenting his EPO and giving him some wrist extension would, because if I hold his wrist in extension, he has meaningful digital extension. So he would be a wonderful candidate for tendon transfers.
This time.
Yeah, we can do it this machine.
He will
reconnect the tendons so he can lift his wrist and thumb.
And this is Dr. Feroz Sidwa sitting here in New York in our studio, but from the clip from American Doctor, preparing to leave Gaza.
I'll see you soon, man. Thanks for everything. Send me a picture of your wedding, yeah?
Of course.
I'll see you
Thanks
soon.
to come here.
No. I hope I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
No, thank you for everything, my friend. Nice to meet you, my friend. Thanks for everything. See you soon? Inshallah. Inshallah.
Was not prepared for this.
It's this weird thing that happens when you leave Gaza and you really feel like you have no right to leave.
So, Dr. Feroz Sidwa, that's you leaving Gaza. Talk about how you went to Gaza, the number of times you were there.
Yeah, so I went in March and April of 2024, and then again in March and April of 2025. That's that you were watching there. I tried to go again in November of 2025, but the Israeli military blocked me from entering. You know, between the two times, Gaza changed a lot. It actually got very significantly worse. The overcrowding was worse. The damage to the healthcare system was much worse. But yeah, the second time is when you see me in that clip.
And talk about why you chose to go to Gaza.
Well, I don't have any ethnic or religious connection to the Middle East. My family's from a small minority in India and Pakistan. But I grew up in the United States. I was born here. I'm an American. And the United States is intimately involved in what's going on. We provide almost all of the weapons, all of the funding, the diplomatic support at the UN, stopping other countries from solving this issue, which is pretty easily solved. And I don't think Americans want to be doing that. I think that's why most of this is hidden from them. So I knew that by going there, I could, number one, provide medical care because I'm a trauma surgeon, so that's what I'm good at doing. But I could also bear witness, and then I could come back and try to tell people what was going on and try to change things.
And you say, I don't feel I have the right to leave.
It's a very strange thing when you leave Gaza. You almost. It seems like a moral or ethical obscenity that I just get to walk out of this place and these children otherwise have to live in this Hobbesian place where their parents' legs can be blown off, or they can be kidnapped and tortured, or they can be starved, or they can,
How many kids have died?
How many children have died in Gaza? The count from the Ministry of Health is 20,000. It's by my estimate, it's probably closer to 70,000, but that's.
So you get in twice, you're denied once. Dr. Thera Ahmed, you're Palestinian American with the Palestinian American Medical Association as well. You weren't able to get in as much.
Yeah, I've been denied 5 consecutive times, most recently July 29th. Because my parents and my grandparents are Palestinian. Because I am Palestinian, that is the reason that we are being rejected. There's a deliberate effort, Amy, to separate the West Bank from Jerusalem, from Gaza. And the idea is to make sure that there can be no Palestine. And the way to do that is to make sure that this one people, this one land, cannot access each other. And that's something that we're seeing. And I obviously push back on that because what we saw in Gaza was a genocide unfold in ethnic cleansing. And what we're seeing in the West Bank right now is that same institution, that same military wreaking havoc on the people of Palestine. I mean, just last month, when I was in the West Bank working on a medical mission there was a 7-month-old, Sam Abu Haykal, driving with his parents in the car, going from Bethlehem to Hebron, a 10-15-minute drive. And an Israeli soldier shoots at the car, hitting Sam in the head. His mom recently said that she's not even wiping his fingerprints from the oven. She can't bring herself to do that for her baby boy. And
Who died?
Yeah, who died? He was killed. They had to bury him.
The final scene of the film is of Israel's double-tap strike on Nasser Hospital. This was exactly a year ago in August, that killed at least 20 people, including 5 Palestinian journalists. Hussam al-Masri, a photojournalist with Reuters, Mohammed Salama, a photojournalist with Al Jazeera, Mariam Abu Daka, a freelancer who worked with the Associated Press, Moaz Abu Taha, a photographer, and Middle East Eye freelancer Ahmed Abu Aziz. Talk about the significance of this moment. Were any of you there? And what it meant to hit the hospital. And then when people went to try to save these people who'd set up a camera, the journalists, they were hit.
Yeah, I mean, this is not something that is unique to Nasser specifically. That's the 3rd or 4th time it's been attacked by the Israeli military. I was there one of the first times in January and February 2024 when the Israeli military surrounded, raided, and actually abducted Dr. Khaled Abu Sir, who's been on this program. And as well as multiple times afterwards when Feroz and Mark were actually there and it was hit.
You were at Nasser, just not then.
Not during that attack that you mentioned, but on March 23rd, yeah.
And speaking of, like all the journalists who were killed on that stairwell, like that is where our team would transmit footage to us. So it's not like they're just attacking willy-nilly, It's very concerted effort in targeting anywhere where journalists and are trying to transmit information and footage out to the rest of the world.
And you use much footage from Palestinians, right?
Absolutely.
On their iPhones, on their phones.
Yeah, no, actually not. Actually,
No?
we were relying on a cinematographer, a director of photography by the name of Ibrahim Al-Otla. There were 2 of our colleagues, Ibrahim and our co-producer, Mohammed Sawaf. So much of what you see in the film, it's a credit to them and also because of their sacrifice of how much they want it out in the world.
And before we go, both of you doctors have a pin on Free Dr. Hussam Abu Safia. In this last 30 seconds, talk about, the former head of Kamal Adwan, the pediatric hospital, Dr. Thayer, you knew him.
Yeah. I mean, this is somebody who has been abducted, is in prison without charge, is being tortured. His lawyer thinks that he is on the brink of death, and his family continues to ask the world to stand up. He's one of 14 senior Palestinian medical doctors who should be in Gaza leading the recovery and reconstruction, and instead they're being beaten to death by Israeli soldiers. He's in an underground prison in Israel, one that was shut down previously and reopened for this specific purpose.
We're going to leave it there, but people can see this film all over the country. Poe, where?
We're kicking off in New York, and then we go to LA, San Francisco, and then it's going to be in 77 theaters across US and Canada. And I will say, like, before we began, we did not ever think that, a film like this could go mainstream, but now we have, and so we hope people will be able to watch it.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman as we bring you part 2 of our conversation about the new documentary that's opening around the United States and Canada called American Doctor. It tells the story of 3 doctors, U.S. doctors, who volunteered in the besieged hospitals of Gaza, following the orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mark Perlmutter from North Carolina, the trauma surgeon Feroz Sidwa from Stockton, California, and the Chicago emergency physician, Dr. Thayer Ahmed, who is Palestinian-American. In March of last year, we actually spoke to Dr. Feroz Sidwa and Dr. Mark Perlmutter when they were volunteering at the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, Gaza. I asked Dr. Perlmutter about the Palestinian doctors and medical staff in Gaza who had been detained by Israeli forces.
I have a colleague, an orthopedic surgeon, specializes in pediatric orthopedics, who was abducted from the hospital, from the operating room in February of 2024. He was just released. When he was arrested, he was strip searched, marched naked in front of his colleagues, beaten on a daily basis in an Israeli prison, beaten more intensely when he asked to speak to a lawyer, and even more intensely after he spoke to his lawyer. He had his fingers broken in his hand. He had, while handcuffs on, guards step on the handcuffs to torque them into the nerves of his hand, ruining the nerves in his operative hands. And if the physical daily beatings and the loss of his hand function wasn't enough, the psychological torture, which is their specialty, according to almost everybody who's been released, and there's still approximately 350 healthcare workers in Israeli prisons, all without charges. The psychological torture is immense.
That was Dr. Mark Perlmutter on Democracy Now! In early March of 2025, featured in the new documentary American Doctor. He was sitting next to, in front of the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, Dr. Feroz Sidwa. Dr. Thayer Ahmed is also joining us in the studio with Dr. Feroz and the film's first-time director, an amazing film, Po-Si Tang. So, Dr. Feroz, you're now seeing that maybe for the first time sitting here, was the two of you sitting in front of the hospital. I think that was something like March 13th, 2025. Yeah. The hospital would soon be struck as the Israeli military attacked it.
Yeah, a few days after that clip, that was what they call a ceasefire was going on at that time. Like there is now, it's hardly a ceasefire, but there was a ceasefire at that time, so things were less chaotic. A few days after that, on March 18th, the Israelis carried out this huge aerial blitz across Gaza, killing about 400 people in 10 minutes. And after that, it was just work the entire time. It was incredibly busy after that. And the hospital was, again, very quickly overwhelmed, total disaster.
And even before that, can you talk about the man who filmed the two of you sitting there for Democracy Now!
Yeah, so the journalist that I met there, I honestly can't remember his name, unfortunately. He was a very nice man. on March 18th, so I had the interview with him, kept in touch with him. I interviewed later with him for his own news organization. And on March 18th, one of the people I took care of was a 25 or 26-year-old woman, a mother of three, who had been hit by shrapnel in her tent. Her pelvis was destroyed. Her, I'll spare your listeners the details,
no,
I suppose. Her vagina was torn, her rectum was torn, her entire pelvis and spine were destroyed. And this young woman in the United States or Israel or Europe, she wouldn't have died. She would have been viciously disabled for the rest of her life, but she wouldn't have died. But in Gaza, you don't have blood products. You don't even have a relatively clean, let alone sterile environment to take care of her in. So she bled to death 12 hours later in the ICU.
The cameraman's sister.
This is the cameraman's sister, which I learned after I operated on her the first time. And, he was he was in the waiting area with her children. And I saw him and I recognized him and he said, Lubna's my sister. And I said, we're doing everything we can, but, she's probably not going to make it.
And then the airstrike happened of March 23rd, that you and Dr. Perlmutter survived, but so many didn't. Talk about the boy you had worked on.
Yeah, so the last case that I did, the last operative case I did on March 18th was a 16-year-old boy named Ibrahim Barhoum. He was a twin. His twin brother had been killed in December of 2024 in the genocide. And Ibrahim, he had injuries to his colon and rectum. I gave him a colostomy where your intestine comes out to your skin. And unlike most 16-year-old boys, he was pretty much fine with it. He was a good kid. He never complained about pain. He just wanted to get up and go home and go back to his tent with his family. And on March 23rd, 5 days later, he was ready to be discharged from the hospital. He had actually healed up well. He didn't have infections, which was very uncommon in Gaza. Almost everybody got infected with something.
Everyone gets sepsis.
Almost everyone gets an infection of some kind. If we find it early enough, then maybe we can prevent sepsis from setting in, but it's almost universal that every surgical incision gets infected because everyone's malnourished. The hospital is filthy and overcrowded, and there are very few antibiotics available. And it's a long-standing problem that Thayer probably knows more about than I do. But Gaza has been such a severely wounded population with high-powered military equipment for so long that these people have been exposed to so much antibiotics that there's an enormous amount of antibiotic resistance in Gaza relative to anywhere else. But yeah, so on March 23rd, I was on my way down to Ibrahim's room to change his bandages one last time, and then we were going to discharge him in the morning. And I guess just to make a long story short, on the way down to his room, the Israelis fired a drone-fired missile into his room. They were trying to kill the other guy in the room. They claimed he was the prime minister of Gaza. I don't think he knew that. He was a patient admitted to the hospital. But Ibrahim was also killed in that attack, and I found his body later in the emergency room.
The boy you'd say.
Yeah, the 16-year-old boy. And he was perfectly healthy, ready to go home. And if you can believe it, the BBC actually reported that this 16-year-old boy was the assistant to the prime minister of Gaza, and that's why he was killed. And I've told them 100 times that that's not true, but news stories still.
Also, Nasser Hospital. Talk about the wall, and right on the other side of it, the journalist tent. It became a famous image when they struck the journalist tent.
Yeah, so right outside the wall of Nasser, to the south of Nasser, is a market, and in that market there was a journalist tent. They had high-speed Wi-Fi, a little generator for charging their camera and their phones and stuff. And that tent, and I hung out there. I think you've been there too. Yeah, Dr. I hung out there. Yeah, Dr. Thayer's been there as well. I've been there a few times. I hung out there a few times with them. And after I left, I believe it was May of 2025, that tent was struck also by most likely a drone-fired missile. The tent was set on fire, and there was a famous photojournalist in the tent who was set ablaze. And there's a famous video of him burning in this tent. people were able to get him out of the tent, extinguish the flames, and because Nasser is only 100 feet away, he was able to get into the hospital, and the emergency doctors there were able to save his life for that moment. And the second floor men's surgical ward had already been destroyed in the March 23rd strike. This young man was admitted to the new men's surgical ward, which is on the third floor. And a few weeks, I think 2 weeks later, the Israelis bombed that surgical ward to kill him. So now the second floor surgical ward is destroyed. The third floor, the new surgical ward is destroyed. The hospital at that point had lost about 20% of its beds just to bombing. And it's just an absolute disaster and a crime, a major crime that we were responsible for.
Dr. Thayer Ahmed, Poe does such a good job in showing, here you are getting in. So many people desperate to get out. In part one, we talked about the thousands of cancer patients and chronically ill people who can't get out of Gaza, chronically ill Palestinians. But you are trying to get in. Talk about what motivated you and how you ended up on this journey, which American Doctor does so well in conveying.
I think, and something that I think comes through in the film, and Poe was able to capture as she spent time with the Palestinian diaspora here in the United States, was there is a survivor's guilt that's at play for all of us here in the States, the Palestinians that are here. There is a sense of duty and responsibility, and I can guarantee you that if there was any opportunity for any Palestinian American to be able to go to Gaza, even if it's just to, move some rubble or to help with, screwing a light bulb in, everybody would take that opportunity. This is, when you look at the screens and you see what's happening to these people, when you heard Hind's voice, I heard my daughter's voice on the other side of that phone.
When you say Hind, you're referring to the 5-year-old, 6-year-old Hind Rajab.
Yeah, and as Poe kind of
killed in an Israeli strike in Gaza.
In an Israeli strike as her family was fleeing because they were told to evacuate. So her and her family were told to leave Gaza City to go south, and they were listening to the Israeli military. And as a result of that, a tank fired over 300 shells into her vehicle. And we had to listen for an agonizing 3 hours as she was begging for people to come and help her. And so, that's something that every single Palestinian was aware of. Everybody heard Hind's mom asking the world to intervene. And I think what you get to see in the film is the diaspora here in the United States struggling with what they were seeing and realizing how the United States was playing such a massive role in what was taking place. I get paid every couple of weeks, and I can tell when I look at my check, I know that maybe there's a few of these dollars or pennies that are actually going to slaughter my own people. And that's something that, we wrestle with and we struggle with.
So you got in once.
Yes.
You've been denied 5 times, most recently in the last few weeks.
Yes. That's exactly right. This is something that every Palestinian healthcare worker who has tried to enter has experienced the same thing. We are being rejected. We are being asked where our parents are born, where our grandparents are born. And if you somehow say that, if they happen to have been born in Palestine, you can rest assured that you will be rejected, regardless of whether your specialty is needed or not. And I'll just say one thing. I'm happy that Feroz and Mark and people like him exist, because they're going in and standing in solidarity with our Palestinian healthcare workers. But the idea, too, is you want to separate sort of this connection that exists between Palestinians. We speak the language. We understand the culture. We want to be able to help with what's going on. We want to stand and put our hands on their shoulders. The people who have been dealing with this for over 2.5 years, the doctors who are emerging from their tents because they lost their homes, or like Dr. Hussam, who had to bury his son Ibrahim.
You're talking about Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, former head of the Kamal Adwan Pediatric Hospital.
1 month before he was abducted, in that famous image of him walking up to an Israeli tank in December of 2024.
Walking through the utter destruction,
and rubble,
rubble, in his white coat, and you see him from the back walking, climbing up to this Israeli tank. Why was he climbing to it?
That's exactly what they had instructed him to do. People don't realize in those moments, he miraculously evacuated all of the patients from Kamal Adwan because the Israeli military was getting ready to destroy that hospital. And so he worked tirelessly to save the kids in the ICU and get them to another hospital safely.
In the only NICU.
In the only NICU in northern Gaza, which had been absolutely
neonatal intensive care unit.
Neonatal intensive care unit. And this is somebody who just a month earlier had buried his son Ibrahim in the compound of the hospital. This is somebody who had just written a New York Times op-ed just weeks before that, begging the world to intervene and stop what he knew was going to happen. which is what we all knew would happen because it was a Gaza hospital. And so this is, again, this is a pattern. It's a policy that had been at play. This is not just random moments. You know, Feroz can mention about how they're trying to target certain people, but the truth is that it didn't matter what was going on or who you were. If you were Palestinian and you were in Gaza, you were being targeted, whether you were a doctor, a nurse, a journalist, a cameraman, or even just a child getting ready to go to school that morning.
I want to stick with Dr. Hussam for a moment. Sure. We talked about him in part one. You're both wearing pins that say "Free Dr. Hussam Abu Safia." He's been held for now
more than 2 years.
Without charge.
Yes.
And this is a recent video message. Dr. Abu Safia's son, Elias, said his father showed clear signs of torture and medical neglect during a meeting with his lawyer in which Dr. Abu Safia described being beaten with a hammer.
My father was unable to breathe. My father was unable to speak. His face was disfigured from the marks of torture and pain, especially after the last court session held in Jerusalem at the Supreme Court. We still call out, plead and appeal and beg to all the free people of the world and to everyone with an atom of humanity in their heart to save my father's life before it's too late.
Elias is in northern Gaza right now, and you just communicated with him?
Yeah, I just sent him a message later on today. Myself and Feroz will try to speak to European countries and members of the UN Security Council, asking for them to intervene in terms of Dr. Hussam, as well as 13 other senior Palestinian medical physicians who are being held without charge in Israeli dungeons.
And what does Israel say?
They continue to claim bogus claims that they have no evidence for. They're not able to even.
Well, they haven't charged them.
They have not, but they continue in the public domain to try to paint these doctors as somehow nefarious characters. And every single person, every single institution, organization, humanitarian response, human rights group knows that it's completely garbage and false. There's not a shred of evidence that you can provide against them. I think if you really look at what's happening here, is these are 14 senior physicians who Gaza needs. The patients in Gaza needs them. They play a vital role in saving the lives of people. And when you abduct them and you keep them in these torture camps, you're sending a message to all of Gaza, leave. Your doctors will not be able to heal you or save you. Even doctors who are supposed to be protected, even they are not safe. Get out of Palestine.
And yet they can't get out. I mean, you have the thousands of cancer patients and chronically ill people who cannot get out.
And that's the sick game. I mean, the yellow line continues to encroach on the Palestinians. This is the Israeli military's yellow line that on October 9th during the ceasefire announcement was probably 50% of the Gaza Strip and is now closer to 70%. So they continue to encroach on Palestinian land. They continue to fire on Palestinians who even approach this yellow line. And so the shrinking space of Gaza leaves Palestinians with only one direction, and that's heading towards the Mediterranean Sea.
So you are a member of many communities, both of you, and one of them, well, you, Dr. Thaer Ahmed, are Palestinian American, but you're also medical doctors, and that is a major community in the United States and around the world. What has been the response of the American Medical Association? You're part of the Palestinian American Medical Association.
Yeah, I mean, the professional societies in the United States, in Europe, and in the UK have been absolute cowards when it has come to Palestine and to Gaza. They were ready to speak and release statements when it came to Ukraine, which was totally appropriate and something that needed to happen. But the second that it came to Palestine, they decided that this was too controversial and this was something that people were too divided over. It's an embarrassment. These are people who share the same profession as us. They took oaths like we did. They put on white coats. They heal children. And instead, you're seeing them step up and refuse to even acknowledge that this is happening.
Po Si-Teng, you chose to focus on these incredibly brave U.S. doctors who go into Gaza. Many times get rejected, but sometimes get in. And as you told us in part one of this conversation, while you couldn't get in, you worked with Palestinian videographers to film them inside. One of them, I mean, you work with a camera person and one who became your director of photography, didn't speak English. These are U.S. doctors. Talk about how you navigated that.
You know, I'll say that it all happened because of a team, and a team that spanned 8 different countries. No one person can make this film. And it's the dedication of everybody who wanted to contribute something. And so in terms of our team and our crew in Gaza, Ibrahim Al-Otla, our cinematographer, and Mohammed Sawaf, we worked with them. I have a producer, Reem Haddad. So Reem and I used to work at Al Jazeera English. And when I saw their work, like incredible verite. I mean, this is like top-notch cinematography. And I was like, Reem, I want to work with them. And Reem's like, they want to work on this too. But their message for us, we will do this, but you have to bring it back to the United States. Bring it back to the American people. And so, they shot this film, Ibrahim did, at great risk to his family. And I will say this, like, when Ibrahim was filming for Dr. Feroz and Dr. Mark, there was already a blockade in place. This was March, so there was no food going in. Now, Ibrahim and Mohammed each have 5 children. So we're talking about people at the top of their craft, still dedicated to do their work. And when Nasser Medical Complex was hit, Ibrahim's first instinct, he had messaged us, I'm going to go to Nasser. How is Dr. Feroz? I remember him saying that. And we had to communicate with him and say, you cannot go to the hospital. It is late at night, and you would be a moving target for the Israelis. And so those were some of the conversations that we had to have with him. And this really speaks to their dedication. And so the reason why we push this film so hard is because we want to honor the Gazan doctors. We want to honor the Gazan journalists and the cinematographers. And we have so much power here. And never, even for them, never would they have thought that a film that we made together would be, across theaters in the US and Canada.
Dr. Feroz, your agreement to do this with Poe, you say you don't think it's going to go anywhere at the beginning.
Yeah,
Talk about how you feel the climate has changed and public opinion in the United States, which is, of course, the U.S. so important in providing weapons for Israel, why that matters.
Yeah, the last 2.5, 3 years has seen a radical change in American perceptions, American attitudes towards support for Israel, support for Israeli crimes, which is fantastic because that's exactly what should happen. Like you mentioned in the movie, I say that I don't think that my combined 10 minutes on mainstream television has done anything useful. And I don't think I didn't have anything to do with it. Honestly, it was the Palestinian journalists there and the Palestinians themselves who just broadcast what was happening to the world. But people were willing to listen, and that has resulted in this sea change. And now, at the Angelica, just this mainstream theater with a mainstream audience.
Here in New
York, where it's sold out every night, which is amazing. Last night somebody said, do you think things have changed? And during the Q&A at the Angelica, and I said, yeah. Look at this room. This room is full. That's wild. Thayer and I both told Poe that she was wasting her time by making this movie. But we were wrong, which is wonderful.
And then you're heading to San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There you're going home to Chicago, where it's going to be playing. It's playing in Toronto as well, in scores of theaters opening right now.
Yeah.
And so we hope people will actually support. I think the idea is we want to keep the conversation going. And this film is a way that we can continue to keep it going because CNN and MSNBC and Fox News have stopped talking about Palestine, and people are still suffering immensely. So I hope this is a signal that people are still interested.
And if there was any hesitance, if a hesitance of not wanting to speak up, then here's a film, and there are three paths for you. You can be like Thayer, strategic and politic. You can be like Mark, who has taught me a lot. Speak your mind. Do not mince words. Or it can be like Feroz, who is, does the homework and is able to convince even the most difficult audiences because of his patience. Now, none of them are perfect, and all of them are different. But yet, at the same time, they're able to advance something, and they're able to work together, even though they're so different. So that has taught me a lot, and I'm hoping it can teach audiences in America that as well.
We're going to leave it there, but folks can go see this film. Dr. Thayer Ahmed, I want to thank you for being with us. Dr. Feroz Sidwa, and Posi Teng, the director of the new documentary, American Doctor. It's opening in theaters around the United States now. To see part 1 of our discussion, go to democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.